Well, I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Right. If you have just to get the recap of the last week discussion, we started with just understanding what an IoT consists of and what are the prerequisites required for this course to be uh, understood in a proper way. So there's the slides already been given, and of course the link is basically the recorded session of that introductory part related to the Internet of Things. So the YouTube link is being provided for you. If some of you are not present in the last week's discussion, you can try to browse this video and try to understand the intricacies related to those IoT stuff. And of course, the for those people who have joined in this week, that is today, you can go through the syllabus. The syllabus is already prescribed here on the course page, as well as the introductory part which we discussed in the last week. Of course, this introductory part is not a very a compulsory thing, but anyway, it will give you the oversights of this particular course. Those are very curious to. Those are very much curious to know what this particular course consists of. Can give you some kinds of insights. So, if you look to the syllabus point of view, I am starting from today. The architecture and the design principles required for the IoT application development, of course, the IoT system itself. So before I proceed to this, the material related to this week's is also been posted on the course page of our Moodle. I hope you are able to log into the course pages and you are able to access those materials. Are you able to, of course, there are 28 of them are present in this session at this moment. Are you able to at least access to these materials, please?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So from this week onwards, I will regularly posting the materials on this course page. So please keep an eye on this. Of course, we have our session on Friday and Tuesday. So apart from this Friday and Tuesday, sometimes I may post the materials one day before. So for this week, we also have the class scheduled for tomorrow. So we have a class scheduled at 12 noon to 1 p.m. This is to compensate the Tuesday's class, and some of you are not joined this particular elective course. So for them, I have just postponed this for tomorrow's session. Of course, the plan for tomorrow I will discuss with you at the end of the session. Uh, just to have an idea, we have given this particular information to you. So before we proceed to this architecture and design principles, any doubts related to the introduction to the IoT that we discussed in this particular last week's session? If you have any doubts, please put forward for 5 minutes so that I give time for you to recap the last week's class. So this is what the introduction to Internet of Things, the material which is given to you. I have just given you why we need this Internet of Things and what it consists of and how did this has been started with the open source hardware and followed by the open source software. So basically the Internet of Things is nothing but your everyday things are getting connected uh, for us to make some wise decisions and a proper decisions for a smarter tomorrow. So these things, all these things in our day-to-day life, whatever the things that we are using for our daily purpose are now getting connected with each other so that we can make our environment very smarter and thereby we can make our lives very softer and smoother and a healthier and a happier living environments. So these are the components that are required for your IoT system to be deployed. So there's the hardware components starting with your microcontroller 8251 followed by the Arduino boards, then the Raspberry Pis, and the softwares required for these hardwares to be operated and to be used, followed by the softwares which are going to be used for your data processing and data analysis. So these are the different things that just we discussed in the last week's session. So if you have any questions here, please put forward either in the chat box or on your, you can directly interact with me. I suppose from now onwards, from today onwards, you will not be moving to other courses and other people will not be able to join here. So there is almost the completion of your swapping of your courses is done. So the deadline is over. So from now onwards, you need to focus on this particular course. Those people already joined. Almost 42 students have joined in this particular course. So I can see now at present 30 are there. So any doubts in the last week's class, plus? Any queries related to the last week's discussion? Okay, if not now, at least you can ask me in the later session too. So let me start with the architecture and the design principles. So we start with what is an IoT? Yeah, anyone can please put forward. Anyone can come forward and just have some kind of words in your own use, at least, if not the textbook definition. I just like to have the interactive session instead of having only one-way communication, please. Hello, am I audible, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Put forward your views. What do you mean by Internet of Things?
Everyday objects are connected to the internet and they can be controlled using internet connection.
Right. So, yes, Shankanil. Yeah. So basically, everyday objects are getting connected with each other through the internet connection, and we are making use of those objects for our betterment, for our activities to be performed in a better way. Any other views, please?
Devices with less computation power, which help in sensing in our daily life.
So yeah, Bharadwaj has come forward with more technical view. The technical view is that those resources or those objects which are of less computational, and those less computational resources try to sense the environment in which we are using in our day-to-day life and make some proper decisions. Of course, see here, as such, the standards, the authorities are not means given a proper definition here, in the sense that a common definition for so many things. So nevertheless, the meaning is going to be revolving around the one particular aspect. One is to use our objects. Those objects which are not connected need to be connected through internet, in simple terms. So the objective of the IoT is to connect the unconnected. So those objects which are not been in use or not been in connected through internet or through other means. So basically, the IoT itself is to make those unconnected objects to be connected and make use of those objects for our daily life in a better way. Very simple definition. Of course, this is not a standard definition, but as such, there is no standard definition for this IoT also from various entities, research bodies, and other standards. So please make an understanding here. The main objective of the IoT is to connect the unconnected. This is the objective. Of course, if you look to the meaning of those IoT, the network of physical objects, basically those objects are nothing but your things. Those things are being embedded, or those things are being connected with some other electronic gadgets, electronic and instrumented gadgets, basically the sensors, the softwares, and other technologies, for making those objects to be connected and exchange the data with other devices and systems over the internet. So we can see this is one of the better and meaningful set of words that you try to understand in terms of what is an IoT. So we start always the IoT topic. When we start with something called as an architecture. So in general terms, what do you mean by an architecture? Architecture contains what? Yeah, can you please move forward? Architecture, yeah.
Sir, it's the internal organization of something.
Architecture is the internal organization of something. See, basically, when you say organization, the internal structure, basically the internal structure is something related to the design. So here, the architecture is something which is going to involve certain kind of planning. Basically, if you look to a simple example of constructing a house, when you are constructing the house, obviously you try to prepare a plan, a kind of blueprint, so that that blueprint will give you the insights about what materials to be used for your constructing that house, at what location, at what structure, at what design those rooms are to be arranged. So basically that is the design in terms, but the prior to design you have certain kind of architect. So usually you take the help of an architect to have a proper design for your constructing a new home, with what sort of material, what quantity, and of course you have certain kind of planning. So until unless you don't have a proper plan, if you are trying to construct or you are going to build a particular house or a residential home or a residential complex or a particular kind of structure which you want to build without a plan, it cannot be successful. Similarly, architecture is basically is one particular word or one particular topic where it involves a complex or a careful design structure of something that you want to create, or that you want to build, or that you want to prepare, or that you want to make it available. So that is a carefully designed structure. The architecture involves a carefully designed structure for something you want to achieve, or something you want to build, something you want to make it happen. So for that architecture, something you want to make it happen, which is of a careful design structure, you will be taking help of an architect. Unless until if you are not an architect, then definitely you are going to take the support of an expert who can properly design a structure for you to construct your house, or to prepare or a particular structure, or to prepare certain kind of physical thing or a physical object. Now here the two things comes into picture here. So we are trying to narrate one example, the same thing, the house construction with your industrial, that is the industry IT network, information technology network. So nowadays you might have seen already in the information IT companies and IT sector, where your computer network of different objects are being established, they are being connected with each other, and they are being in use. Can anybody say what is the basic purpose of those IT companies computer network consist of, or what is the need for that? Can you please put forward? Today you might have seen in our university or in our industry, you are taking the help of an IT means here information technology, and you are going to build up a network. So what is the reason behind, or what is the purpose, or what is the important thing that is been revolving around those computer network of your IT company? Not even IT company, or for a particular industry or a particular organization. What drives, or what is the need for that company or the office people to be getting connected with each other? Any views, please? Exchange of data.
Efficient information sharing between employees within the organization.
Exactly, efficient information exchange. Nivas also said that exchange of data. One employee wants to exchange the data with the other employee, or in an enterprise network, or in enterprise as a company where so many activities goes on. So basically, you try to send and receive the data. That is your exchange of data or exchange of information between one person to another person. So that exchange of data happens through what are the means of exchanging the data within the company? What are the various ways of exchanging the data within that company or industry or a particular organization? Anyone, please?
Using an intranet that is not available to the public.
Using an intranet not available to the public. Yes, the Shankanil, your idea is correct. You are giving a technical answer, but I'm asking in general at this point of discussion. So here in a company, people do exchange data by means of sharing
Using
the.
hard drives or pen drives, thumb drives.
Okay, okay. Anurag, yes, your ideas are correct, no doubt. But what I am trying to emphasize here is people in the company or organization or industry, they exchange that information or data through various email mechanisms. They use email communication system. So they can share their files using the IT infrastructure available over there. And apart from sharing the informations, what are the other important things that are happening in your computer in a computer network of a company?
So remote access of computers actually, like
Yes, remote access of computers, people do share. Of course, not only I'm telling sharing of information or exchange of data, something else is also happening by using the computer network in a company.
Synchronization.
Synchronization of what? Of what, Anurag? Yeah.
Like the data which is common to both the computers or a set of computers.
Okay, very specific answer. Very good, Anurag. But Nibas is in the chat box. He's giving the answers. He is giving as a continuity. Continuity, yes, of course. So, okay, let me just put forward what I'm trying to get answer from you is, see, apart from you exchange the data or you exchange information in the company with using a computer network. Your computer network that is established within the company also do certain data processing here, in the sense that there is a data flow. Suppose you're doing a payroll management, your company's employees information, how many days the employee has attended the or how many working hours did the employee attended that particular task or in the company. So accordingly, the payment has to be given. And of course, what are the activities the company is doing or the industry is doing, all set of asset informations. And they do kind of like something called CRM. You might have heard about this. So all these are been activities which are been performed by a computer network in an IT company or industry or an organization. But please remember, if you come to know the IoT is also nothing but interconnection of physical objects. So it is basically you are going to have a network of objects. So the network of objects that you establish and that you use it for your purpose is completely different from the network of computers or the network of the company's IT assets and so on and so forth. What I mean to say is, what you are seeing in the company or an organization or industry where a computer network is existing, the same computer network fundas and the principles and the characteristics does not hold for our IoT systems. Can anybody say why I'm telling that there is a lot of difference between the computer network that you see it in a company or an organization is completely different from an IoT network? Can anybody say something about this? Yes, Deepika, can I hear something from you? Kulshrestha, are you online?
Yes, sir, I'm online.
So are you able to follow?
Yes, sir, I'm able to follow. Sir, the difference maybe that in Internet of Things, we actually use it to manipulate devices, and the network in the office or company usually is for the people to communicate and to process the information, like you said.
Yeah, you are on the track, but not specifically. So we'll see now. We'll see what is the exact difference, or what is the difference between the computer network that is existing on for a company, where basically the emails, the CRM softwares, and the other activities of the company are taken care by the computer network, which is going to be different for the IoT network. So let us see what is the difference here is. So in order to understand the difference, let me tell you, I will give you another example here. Let us see another example. So we are discussing something around what is called difference between IT and IoT networks, difference between IT network and an IoT networks. So here, let me just put forward to another example here. Let us see the construction of a home or your construction of your building. So when you take the support or when you take the help of an architect or an engineer to prepare a plan for your home, how it can be how it can be built. So he is going to prepare a design for you in the form of a blueprint. So do you think that expertise is enough for you for that person who has got that knowledge? Is that sufficient for that expert to help you to prepare to build a stadium or to a big complex structure?
No, sir.
Yeah, who said no, please?
I
Suvam, yes. So I hope you understood the question here. What I am trying to make you to understand is, see, whenever you try to build a home, the planning for building the home is going to be different for planning to build a stadium or to a very complex hall or a very big complex building or a bridge or something like that, which is very complex in nature. So when you
Yes,
compare,
sir.
yeah, when you compare building a home and when you compare building a very big infrastructure thing, is a completely different aspects here. So similarly, that expertise what you have in building a home may not be sufficient to build a bridge or a stadium or a complex structure. So please remember, you know the difference now. So building a home is not very simple as building like your means building home is going to be very simplest task when compared to building a bridge or a stadium. Similarly, the same example can be understood here also. So if you want to establish a network for your company purpose or for your organizational purpose, so that setting up the computer network only to have certain applications like emails or your softwares that are to be run on that computer network is very simple. Whereas when you are going to set up an IoT network where you are connecting different physical objects, millions of physical objects. When I say millions means in Indian terminology, lakhs of physical objects are to be connected with each other. If you're looking for a smart city, or if you're looking for a smart agricultural firm, or if you're looking for a smart healthcare application, where your thousands and lakhs of devices are to be interconnected. So whereas in your company, you may have only hundreds or at the maximum few hundreds of devices that are to be connected for you to exchange the data just in terms of email exchange or data that needs to be passed on. But whereas for an IoT network, you have several hundreds of devices that need to be interconnected. Not only hundreds, it can be thousands, lakhs. In simple terms, it can go to huge when you consider a smart city or a smart building or a smart infrastructure which you want to deploy. So like this, so building a computer network is completely different from building a IoT network. Please do remember, the expertise may not be sufficient. Just by knowing some computer network fundamentals, that is not going to be sufficient for you to build up an IoT network. So why it is not same and why it is going to be have a difference is that basically your IT networks are primarily concerned with the infrastructure that only that transports flow of data. Just the data has to be transported from one place to another place. But whereas in IoT networks, you should also look for what is the data type, how the data should be processed, how the data should be collected, processed, make some inferences, make some decisions properly after you're analyzing the collected data. So a lot of stuff is involved in the IoT networks than your simple computer network. Please do remember this difference. Okay, so that's what the example I'm giving, a residential architecture versus a stadium architecture. That's what the difference. When a particular architect who is going to prepare plans for you for preparing for your home constructions and all is not as similar as preparing a plan for your stadium architecture. Please do remember. So there's a lot of difference. That difference is nothing but the difference between an IT guy or an IT computer network guy with an IoT network guy. I hope you are able to follow it now, at least. Yeah. Yeah. Suvam is asking asynchronous way. Of course, asynchronous and synchronous way of communication is also going to be taking place in IoT. Whereas, yeah, in IT networks, you can have mostly asynchronous way. There won't be some kind of synchronous until unless you have a video conferencing. Any other things, please? Any doubts here, please? For anyone? I hope you are able to follow it, right? If you have any doubts, please put forward now. Hello? Am I audible, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So right now, let us see. So if you are going to prepare an IoT network, or if you want to design an IoT system or IoT framework, when I say IoT system, IoT framework, IoT network itself, all means the same. So don't, I am interchangeably using those words, so don't get confused. So in simple terms, you can simply call it simply as an IoT itself. So all means the same here. So what are the needs for a new IoT architectures? So as such, our scientific society and the researchers, the industry and the standards have not formalized a particular IoT architecture. So if you see on the literature, if you see what are the materials available, I will just speak it out in the later stage. See, there as such, there is no a simple layered architecture here. Like in computer network, what is the standard architecture? Do you have it? Anyone, please?
TCP/IP.
TCP/IP protocol suite. That is the common architecture people use for your communication purpose. Even TCP/IP has come from a logical layered structure. So what is that logical layered structure? We call it as
OSI.
yes, 7 layers OSI reference model. So what is the 7 layers OSI reference model do consist? What are the 7 layers? Your physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and application layer. So these are the 7 layers which the ISO International Standards Organization, that's what a standards organization, Open Systems Interconnect OSI, they have prescribed that 7-layer OSI reference model. And based on that 7-layer OSI reference model, your TCP/IP model has come into picture. And today all our systems are connected with each other with those TCP/IP suite. But as such, if you look for our Internet of Things, please remember, as such, there is no something called as similar to, as such, an IoT architecture as similar to a TCP/IP or as similar to your OSI reference model. So as such, there is no particular structure, but there are other reference models which the stand, of course, different companies and different forums and different people which are they have come together and prescribe certain architecture for us. So let us see, if at all you want to build up a design for your IoT application, a framework for your application, then what are the things that you require? Usually, the most important challenge or the most important driver that drives for you to consider when you are preparing an IoT architecture is the scalability, scaling. So what is the scalability means? The challenge here is the massive scale of IoT endpoints. It means there are so many sensors which are going to be used in your IoT systems, which needs to collect some information. So there will be massive scale of IoT endpoints for your application. So there are so many sensors are required for your application to gather the information, to collect the information. When you are looking for the scalability, that is to deploy many sensors for in your environment or in any application you want to deploy, the problem is this: in the current scenario, the IPv4 address has already reached to an exhaustion and is unable to meet the IoT scalability requirements. Thereby, you are looking for something called as IPv6 addressability. So you know what is the difference between IPv4 and IPv6 addressings? So basically, IPv4 address takes how many bits?
32 bits.
Yeah. So what about IPv6 address? IPv6 supports how many number of address bits?
120.
128.
Yeah. So you know at least so that number of bits are enough for you to uniquely identify a different set of devices across the networks. So that is what the IoT architectural challenge has been. The change or the requirement is required for IoT applications. Now the other driver or another aspect that you need to look for is on the security. So what is the security here? IoT devices, especially those on wireless sensor networks, are often physically exposed to the world. See, unless until your IoT devices are not secure, your data is not going to be secured, and obviously you are going to have a lot of problems here. So how this particular security is required, how you can incorporate the security mechanisms for your IoT systems is, yes, whatever the natural way of incorporating the security strategies that you do is, you have to put some device level, at the IoT device level, some authentications. Similarly, you need to also have certain kind of encryption strategies also that is required, and that is also going to be very much challenging for our IoT systems to incorporate those security mechanisms. Now, another important aspect that you need to understand when you're looking for IoT architectures is on that devices and networks are constrained by power. See, whenever you use IoT systems, those devices and the networks which are been established with those devices are being running with the help of the energy that needs to run those particular devices and the networks. So a lot of power consumption is going to be there. A lot of CPU processing capability is required, and you need also memory and the communication bandwidths or the link speeds. So these are all the challenging tasks that are the drivers that are needs to be considered when you are going to propose an IoT solution for your application. So there is the thing is, due to the massive scale and longer distances, when you are going to provide certain systems to be monitored in the environment, you have to look for many devices that are to be added into your environment. And because those devices are connected across those different distances, the network has to be established. And obviously, when the network is established, the problems such as those devices are constrained with your energy, that is the power supply to be given to those devices, and those networks are going to be lossy in the sense you are going to lose the information. How far you are going to get that information is going to be a big question mark, and capable of supporting only minimal data rates. Your data transfer across those devices are not that much provided, so very less data rates are available to you. So what is that that IoT architecture, the application that you are supposed to consider is new wireless technologies are needed to support those constrained IoT devices. So IoT devices are constrained in the sense that there is limitations on the CPU, the processing capability, limitations on the storage, that is the memory, limitations on the power consumptions, the energy is very much required, the batteries are very much required. You cannot the batteries cannot provide for a longer duration of time. So like this, there are all limitations are there. So accordingly, the new wireless communications technologies are coming in the market so that they can be very much useful for our IoT systems. In addition to these three, please remember the scalability, the security, and the constrained devices to be managed. You also have certain other information such as how do you process that massive volume of data that is getting generated from those devices, because the sensors generate a massive amount of data on a daily basis. How do you process them? How do you do the analysis? And how do you perform those things in a real time? All these are going to be the requirement for your IoT systems to be used to be prepared when you are going to provide certain solutions to your applications. And another important aspect also you need to look for is the challenges or the driver that requires new IoT architectures is that support for legacy devices. So the legacy devices means the old devices which are supporting with your Ethernet protocols, which are having your RS-232C on the devices interfaces and so on and so forth. So how do you support those IoT networks which are very much on the old standards, old communication standards, which are having those things? So your new IoT architecture, whatever you are going to propose for a particular application, should also to take care of how do you support the existing old systems to have certain communications, and how your data can be passed so that there can be a tunnel mechanism to support the old systems to transfer the data and process the data effectively. So now the another important aspect is, as I mentioned to you earlier, the need for data to be analyzed in the real time. So obviously you cannot wait for longer durations, because of course the advancements of computer technologies and your hardwares and the softwares nowadays we are able to help us to do the data analysis in near real time, so that you can do those things. And how those near real times can be done? Of course, you are applying your AI and ML and your other deep neural networks techniques, so that that will be helpful for you to process your video, audio, and all the other sets of multimedia data to be analyzed in near real time. So please do remember, whenever you are going to suggest or we want to prepare an IoT system for a particular application, that application can be either your transportation or your smart grids or your agriculture or your healthcare or your education purpose, any kind of application you are going to propose an IoT system. You need to please look for the most important challenges or something like this: processing the data in real time, support for the existing or the old systems, how do you manage the huge quantity of data, and how you are going to take care of your resource constraints, the security mechanisms, and the scalability. So looking onto these drivers or the IoT architectures, the most important things that have been identified by our scientific community is that IoT architecture should support data, process, and the functions that the endpoint devices perform. So these are the important things: how the data should be collected, data should be processed, data should be analyzed, and how the functions on the data should be applied at the endpoint devices. It means where the data is getting originated, and for to do efficient data processing. So this is what the most important thing. These things, data processing and the functions that endpoint devices perform, does not hold with your computer network. So this is what something different from the ordinary computer network with your IoT network. So the IoT network mostly emphasizes, or the IoT architectures, the designs uh, do have the requirement how to support various data, the heterogeneous data, collection of data, process the data, and apply the various functionalities on the data at the endpoint. That means at the sensor data collection level itself, and do the processing and do the analysis. So in this, taking into consideration in this aspect how these things can be done with the data, two of the best known architectures are already available in the market. So one of the architecture is something called as one M2M. M2M stands for machine to machine. And basically this M2M is a consortium of several companies, basically from China and from Korea and of other Asian countries. So this, they have come together, and in the year 2011-2012, they have come up with a consortium name called as one M2M, combining all those companies together, and they have come up with an architecture. So one of the greatest challenges in designing an IoT architecture is dealing with the heterogeneity of devices. So what do you mean by heterogeneity of devices? So yeah, so we'll be discussing now first with the one M2M architecture, then followed by IoT world form architectures, and followed by other architectures given by different companies and all for various purposes. So before we proceed further, I'd like to hear from you, what do you mean by heterogeneity? So let me just have some small discussion here. Heterogeneity, in general, English meaning of heterogeneity means what?
Variety of
Variety.
devices.
Yes, variety of devices. Very good. Any other views, please? In general terms, heterogeneity means different types or a variety of devices. So the meaning is given here, variety of devices. So in what way you are going to handle this heterogeneity of devices? So let us understand with a small example here. Suppose in your office, you have the air conditioners or your AC machines. Air conditioning machines are there. Of your different HVAC systems or your high voltage variable analog conditions or your AC condition systems. Of course, it need not be HVAC. It can be simply understand an air conditioner is there in your offices. So now how do you control those air conditioners? Your air conditioners are been already manufactured by a company. Those on and off conditions or your based on the temperature sensors that are there in that air conditioner will keep regulating or you'll keep adjusting based on the ambient temperatures or based on the environmental temperature conditions. Those ACs are getting controlled, or those ACs are getting controlled based on the temperature sensors that are there in that unit or that particular device. Basically, that device is entirely manufactured by a particular company. Now, how do you control those devices? If you want to provide a solution to them, what can be your suggestion, please? If you want to, yeah, yes, please. Please proceed.
So these devices nowadays can be controlled easily by a smartphone app.
Right, nowadays it has been done with using a smartphone app. That app is already given by that manufacturer. Okay, so the same manufacturer, like you are going to have certain company, assume that need not be air conditioners. It can be your house lights or your house electrical items or your fans and so on and so forth. You have now you tell me your electrical lights are of course you assume that you have Philips electrical lights, okay, and you have certain Crompton Greaves fans. You have your air conditioners of a different company, okay, Samsung air conditioners, Philips lights, and your fans are for different company or Crompton Greaves order maybe. Now when you buy, of course you want to control them. Now you have some mobile app, as Kulshrestha has given that, see here. So when you buy the air conditioner, so the Samsung company will give you an app that can be installed on your mobile phone. Now when you buy Philips lights, similarly Philips people will give you an app. Again, that app can be installed on your mobile phone. If you buy the fan in your home, again those fans can be controlled. Of course, Crompton Greaves company, they will give you an app and that can be installed in your mobile phone. So you have three different types of devices in your home. You have three different types of apps. All these three different types of apps are provided in your mobile phone. Now, the meaning here itself is come the heterogeneity. Please remember. So for each and everything of your home, it need not be electrical and electronic. It can be non-electrical electronics. Suppose you want to control your doors of your home. You want to control your windows of your home. Each company may give you different set of devices, different set of mobile apps. And if you start integrating, or if you build up your home to a smart home with all these smart devices, you will have hundreds of mobile apps on your mobile phone, because you have different varieties of heterogeneous systems. So do you think is this the app solution now?
No, sir.
Yes.
Because sir, we can have an app which creates triggers on these hundreds of apps. That way we can control everything through one app, no, sir.
So one app, that is a problem here now. These manufacturers, when they manufacture, they will not give you those compatibilities. So usually, because if they give compatibility, they will lose their market share. They will lose their business. That is a problem here now. Each company, they go with their own things. And if they try to combine with each other, so why will you buy a company which is giving supporting for others? And of course, your app, if it is, you are going to prepare a common app to use those hundreds of apps, it is not as easy, or it is not going to be ideally viable to prepare such kind of apps for you. Please remember, it will not be there. So in this way, when the people have thought, yes, because the IoT in the last decade, people have come with so many things now. Each company is manufacturing their own set of IoT gadgets, IoT devices. They call it as smart, and they call it as automation of things and the smart things, like your washing machines, your lights in your home, your AC conditioners, all this, each company is giving their own set of IoT devices. So as such, because why people went for different things? Because there was no commonality. They did not have a common understanding among themselves how to use those common things for each other. If they come into this market with a common thing, then they will lose their market share. They will lose their businesses. Please remember, there's a lot of businesses involved here. So until everything, whatever they do for the business. It's not for a charity, or it's not for a service-oriented things. Please remember. So in this process, because there is a lot of devices are there, so how to handle this heterogeneity of devices? So different set of devices, how your software should be taken care, like what Bharadwaj has said just now. So you can build up one particular common app to maintain and use all those common apps. So how you to build up the software is also a challenging task. It is not easy until unless they provide the APIs, application programming interfaces, how to interact with their softwares, and how do you access those methods. So what happened is this one M2M, that is one M2M is one particular architecture. Basically, they have given their idea to have the horizontal platform architecture. That's called horizontal platform architecture, is developing the standards that allow interoperability. Please remember interoperability. When I say interoperability, this interoperability comes under the topic of heterogeneity. So how this interoperability at all levels of the IoT can be easily done. That's what this one M2M architecture has come forward in the horizontal way of integrating the things. And there is another architecture also, a well-known architecture, something called as IoT World Forum, IoTWF, which is also a 7-layer IoT architectural reference model for your edge computing, data storage, and access. Something similar to your ISO OSS 7-layer reference model. Similar to that, even this IoT World Forum led by Cisco itself. Of course, here also there are other companies. Basically, the Cisco is the leader in this particular forum. So they also has come forward and they have suggested this 7-layer IoT architectural reference model for edge computing, data storage, and access. So let us see some of those internal details about those architectures. The first architecture is on one M2M. M2M stands for machine to machine. So here there are 3 different layers. Please remember, one layer is called application layer. You can see at the bottom of this. The other layer is called services layer, and the other layer is called network layer. What is this applications layer basically looks upon is you have a different set of applications, something like smart energy monitoring, asset trackings, fleet managements, your energy applications, something like this, home applications, so on. So all the applications comes in this particular application layer. But more specifically, their importance is given to something called services layer, which includes a common services horizontal framework supporting RESTful APIs. So what is RESTful APIs, please? What does REST stands for? Let me just come to our point of discussion here. In internet technologies, you already studied or you might have come across
representational state transfer.
Yes, what is representational state transfer? RESTful and REST services. There are 2 types here. One is REST, another is RESTful. RE representational, yes, state. T stands for transfer.
Sir, like it came as an alternative to service level agreement or something like that, sir. Like previously, we used to have XML and all that for.
Yeah. So there are different representations. Please remember your JSON, your XML representation. JSON is Java.
Object notation.
Yes, object notations, JSON notations, and your XML. XML stands for
Extensive markup language.
Extensible markup language or extended markup language. So there are different types of notations where your data can be transferred across different entities. It can be a client server, or it can be something like publish subscriber model, or it can be something like somebody giving the data, somebody is receiving the data, somebody is sending the data, somebody is receiving. So server client models, all these are your basically some kind of services which are going to be governing for exchange of data. So here what one M2M has proposed is there is a common service layer. Please remember there is a common service layer to handle those heterogeneity and interoperability among the different devices. So the communication devices and hardware should have a common structure, common standard. The communication networks should have a common thing. Communication technologies and protocols should have a common thing. And all those common things are going to be serviced with a common service layer for different types of applications. That's what the one M2M have proposed. Keeping in view of that, because if you look to the user perspective or a consumer point of view, a consumer or a user has to buy so many smart devices, and the smart devices are to be managed by so many other softwares. It is very difficult for a consumer to maintain each and every one software for each and every item that you buy in your home. So here these companies and those standards have come together. So they come up with something called as common services layer. That's a common service layer, which includes your communication technologies and your devices and your hardware should follow a common thing for transfer of data or for the exchange of data among those various applications in your home or in your means office or in your system itself. So they have given this, that's why this is called as a one M2M to support heterogeneity and interoperability to have a common service layer. Now, if you look to the networks layer also, the one M2M has given something called network layer where applications can talk to each other so that their API through their APIs. So what is API stands for application programming interface. It is something like a libraries. So those software libraries will help us to use in for various devices to communicate with each other in exchange of data through the network mechanisms. So this is one architecture which is a common architecture. One M2M is one given by a consortium of Chinese and Korean companies, that hardware electronic gadget companies, they have given to us. Now there is another thing, another reference model, which is the IoT World Forum, we call it as. It's also given the 7-layer models. So if you see at the bottom of this layer, we have something called physical devices and controllers, where your physical devices like your physical objects are being embedded with other sensors and other instrumentation of those sensors, and we have certain connectivity. And if you go to higher levels towards north side, it means from the bottom to top, your data is getting processed, and each layer with different set of functionalities. So connectivity is established, your edge computing, then the data accumulations, data abstractions for your data processings and your data analysis, your applications getting the analysis of those data, and you're collaborating with other set of businesses and other set of entities, like other devices are getting communicated with each other by following these 7 layers reference model. Basically, this is one 7 layers reference model which is given by the Cisco itself. So each layer has got a functionality. So how these devices are connecting with each other, what exactly the functionality is happening, is what is basically on this. So what is this IoT World Forum reference model features is that decompose the entire IoT problem into smaller parts. So when you are going to propose an IoT solution for a particular application, you make that problem into a smaller parts and identify the different technologies at each layer and how they relate to one another. So like this, you need to look for a kind of a stacked layer in each layer. So how the connectivity should be established, how the low-level data processing should take place, where the data storage should take place, how the data abstraction should be prepared so that they can have some interaction, and how the analysis can be performed, and how those various applications or how those various users of different types of electronic devices can collaborate with each other or talk to each other. So this kind of collaboration processes are to be discussed here. So define a system in which different parts can be provided by different vendors. So you need to, as I mentioned to you, there are different vendors are there in the market, where each people have their own set of nomenclature, their architecture, their design, and so on and so forth. So you have to define a system in which different parts can be provided by different vendors. How do you integrate and how do you make use of those things? And have a process of defining interfaces that leads to interoperability. So by using your APIs, you can have those interfaces that can do the interconnections among themselves. And of course, in all levels, you need to provide the security so that it cannot be breached. So these are the things that has come, or these basic 2 architectures. But in addition to these 2 architectures, if you see here, that's what in the left side, I have given you the Cisco, that's what you have seen the 7 layers. Just now you have seen the 7-layered model, what the Cisco and the IoT World Forum has given. In addition to the Cisco, you also have something given by the Oracle, the database giant. The Oracle itself has given IoT architecture. Here, the emphasis is on the data itself, not on the communication and the networking. The Cisco is basically on the communication and the networking aspects, whereas your Oracle has come up with certain architectural style, where your devices are at the bottom level and you provide an intelligent gateway. This, of course, all these things are in the software level itself, and establish the network among those devices and do certain data processing. And of course, the IEEE is also has given the reference architectural, which is also resemblance more similar to these existing architectures, where at the lower level you have the physical objects which are connected with each other, and at the higher level a higher abstraction is being made, how these particular devices are getting connected with each other, who am I and who makes me and what can I do. That's what the manufacturer details, and how the manufacturer specifications are going to be considered here, and how those devices can be made use of with when they are interconnected with other systems. So you have different set of devices like your lighting systems, washing machines, dishwashers, your musical systems, your coffee makers, your pressure transmitters, whatnot. Everything that is going to be at the bottom layer, and they are going to be interconnected with each other with a different set of architectural layers. So your more information you can get it from my paper only. You can download it and you can just elaborately you read this in a more functional way. So I have just a little bit elaborated at this particular point. So if you look here, what are the main design principles that are needed when you are going to propose a IoT architecture or for a system to be developed for a certain applications? See, some examples like this, what I'm trying to say is, if you are going to build up a IoT system for a company, something like your electricity managing company, where your smart grid has to be managed and controlled, or your what you call microgrids. Means microgrids means basically your city level. In city you have different areas, and each area you have a small grid. How your grid can be managed and controlled. So if you look into this, if somebody asks you how you need to provide an IoT solution, so can you please elaborate? Can you please come out with certain ideas here, so that what are the things that needs to be considered when you are going to architect that particular IoT solution? Of course, you have not studied the subject until you don't think that until unless you completely study the subject, you cannot propose the solution. Nevertheless, you can also have certain kind of basic intuitions based on your computer network knowledge and the IoT design principles. You should also be in a position to propose your solution at this point. That's what I assume. So if suppose very simple things, I will put the question in another way. Take the same example. Let me ask one by one something like this. Yes, Rupesh, can you please answer? If I ask you to if I ask you to build a house, will you say no? I don't know how to build a house, or will you say what is that you are going to say? Please let me know from you.
Yes, sir. I generally say I don't know how to build a.
You say you don't know how to build a house, but do you? Of course. Why? What is that you are? Yeah. Can you please? Yeah. I think some noise is coming from the side. If you don't mind. So you definitely say that you don't know how to build a house, and of course you will not keep quiet like that, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So because you have not built a house so far, you don't have experience in building a house. Definitely the answer is no. But you are not going to keep quiet. Am I right?
Yes, sir. So I will take advice from a civil engineer.
Right.
And
right. So you will take an advice from a civil engineer. But when you are taking the advice from a civil engineer, you will also give certain inputs to your civil engineer, right?
Yes, sir.
So what inputs are you going to give to him?
I will say to him that what type of house I want and what for what purpose I need.
Same thing. Please remember, when you are going to propose or when you are going to give a solution, even if you are not an expert in IoT, because you have certain knowledge on computer networks and the computer systems to be built, so obviously you will also take an IoT architect expert advice. But in addition to that, you also give certain solutions. You also suggest some informations to the IoT architect. See what exactly you are looking for and what you want it. So here, similarly, what happens is, if you are looking for a smart home, so for your home, if you want to make your home to be a smart, so there can be various reasons for that. You want to make your home smart. Maybe it is not just simply your electrical and electronic items that you use in the home to be optimized for your energy consumption. It need not be for your electrical and electronics. It can be some other items too. or your windows or your doors or your kitchen items or your chairs, your tables, whatnot. Everything can be automated. Everything can be made wisely used for a better living for tomorrow's. So here, whenever somebody asks you to prepare an IoT solution, you also give certain requirements from your side, what exactly you are looking for. Even, of course, if you are not an expert, but still you'll be able to tell to some extent what are the basic things that you are going to expect from that IoT solution, which is nothing but it is a part of your IoT solution itself. So that's what you will tell in what way those objects are going to be used, or how best those objects are going to be used. You yourself can tell, so that you can build up an automation system for that. So similarly, what happened is the design principles that are needed for you to propose an IoT architecture. So the common design, the main important, what are the aspects that are required to build up an IoT system? Please remember always the most important thing is on the interoperability, which is basically the ability for systems or components of the systems to communicate with each other. If two systems talk with each other properly and they understand it, very good. A good communication is established. But here the problem is in the IoT frameworks or in IoT applications, if two systems cannot talk with each other, then obviously there is no exchange of data. So a lot of confusion comes into picture. So what one person is talking, if the other person doesn't know what one person is talking, so then there's no point in having the exchange of information. There is no point in getting smarter decisions properly. So please remember, if you want to make some wise decisions from your IoT systems for your day-to-day life, very a smarter way, then obviously those systems have to talk to with each other. They need to communicate with each other. If they speak in a different language, then there is no point. So that's to make them in a common language to speak with among themselves is what something called as interoperability. So internally those systems should be operational with each other so that they can communicate effectively and get the data properly. And another important principle whenever you are going to propose an IoT architecture is on the virtualization. What is virtualization? Can anybody say at least? Of course, some of you are studying what is an virtualization. Let me just give some examples here. How virtualization is one of the principles which will help you to prepare a good IoT solution. So what is virtualization, please?
Sharing of resources.
Sharing of resources is one of the aspect of virtualization. How best you can share your resources, how best you can utilize your resources, what are the existing things, and what is the optimal way of utilizing the resource. That is through virtualization you do it. But I'm asking, what is virtualization?
Having some internal representation of other objects.
Very good, exact, very precisely, very technically given. So your internal representation of other objects are given here. It means what are the physical objects? Physical objects are there. How your physical objects can be represented in another way, and how best those representations will be helpful for you to use those physical objects. So here, like you might have seen your virtual box on your laptop or your virtual machine on your laptop. So on your laptop, you have already your laptop, your host computer has got an operating system. But through another operating system, which is on your virtual box on the same laptop, you are having another operating system. But that operating system also is using the resources of your host computer or your host machine, so that you are using for a different purpose. So it is possible through using virtualization. So the advantage of using virtualization is, please anybody can tell now? Yes, please.
So more efficient use of resources.
Yes, utilization of resources, more efficient use of resources. Apart from that, there is another big advantage of virtualization.
For simulations?
Very good, very good. So you are on the track. Suppose you are having a SCADA system. SCADA, anybody having any idea what is SCADA system stands for? SCADA, SCADA. You're not come across this one?
No, sir.
Okay, now let me, this is a supervisory control. Basically, okay. So basically, if you go to your electronics distribution system, so where you have suppose assume that you have a smart a system where you are going to control your electricity for your houses, something like that. So you have a electronic distribution company, or your something like Telangana State Electricity Board. So they are going to manage and control the flow of electricity for different places and different across this different cities. This is one particular system where there is a software controlling of those microgrids or your electricity grids that you see it on the roadsides. Not only this, if you go to the oil mining refineries, or where you are going to coal mining refineries, where those systems they are being controlled and managed by the softwares, and those devices are being managed and controlled by those softwares. Basically, the software control. That's why you say SCADA. Now, what happens is if you don't know about, or if you're not seeing that examples, also keep it aside. In other terms, there is some hardware device which can be controlled by a software, in very simple terms. Of course, this hardware is not very small hardware device. That hardware device, assume that it is a very big complex hardware devices which consist of several other small hardware devices, in very simple terms. So now, if there is a several hardware devices are been connected with each other, hardware devices, and those several hardware devices are controlled by a software. So this is one particular scenario for you to understand here. I will take the help of a virtualization here. So in what way my virtualization is going to be useful in managing and controlling that several hardware resources by the software? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody just put a thought process here?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. See, okay, I'll put the question in another way. Of course, many of you might have installed your virtual machine on your computer, on your laptop. Have you installed your virtual machine?
Yes, please start.
Yes. So now see here carefully, that virtual machine or that virtualization concept is helping for you to use your resources efficiently. That's what your answers are. So what are your resources here?
CPU, RAM.
Yes, exactly. So the CPU, RAM, your hard disk. Okay, these are the main three resources. These three resources are managed or been controlled by two different operating systems. One operating system is on your virtual machine, and another operating system is on your
Host.
on the host machine. Okay. So what is the advantage of having your virtual machine? Your virtual machine operating system here.
I can allocate as much as I need.
What do you mean by allocate as much as you can need means?
I have a 4 CPU core. I can allocate 2 for the virtual machine. Like I
Of
have
course,
4 GB
if you have a 4 cores on your host machine, 2 cores can be allocated for your host machine, 2 cores can be allocated for your virtual machine. That's what you mean to say?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'll put. I'm just it's very simple to understand.
Sir,
You said, yeah, Bharat, please tell me.
uh, eh, like we can use the virtual machine OS to run the programs which are based for the OS, like which require that OS
Yeah.
to.
You pick. Yes, you are on the right track. What I'm expecting, actually, the answer is. My question is, once again, I'm repeating. When you can manage and control your laptop, CPU, memory, and your hard disk with your host operating system, why did you go for a virtualized operating system? What is the advantage of using another virtualized operating system? That's what my question is basically. So what Bharadwaj has given is, using the virtualized operating system, that operating system will helpful for me to use these CPUs for that operating system's requirement. That was the Bharadwaj's answer is. So in this direction, can you please a little bit further, can you expand this answer? Why we need a virtualization? That was the question in the beginning I'm asking for the last 5 minutes. Why did you install your virtual box on your host computer when you already have an operating system on your host computer, which is already managing your CPU, memory, and your hard disk? What is the need for going for a virtualization? Of course, the sum of the answers you are given is to manage the resources efficiently. Okay, that is the answer is fine. Manage the resources. Some 2 cores are there, and 2 cores can be given for host system, 2 cores can be given for virtual machines, and you can manage the resources efficiently. But the yes, please.
Sir, there are some software or some things that don't run in one OS.
Exactly. That's what I'm expecting, Amit Kumar. See, why did you go for virtualization? Means there are certain things that cannot be run properly by your host computer. Very simple things. See, you are on the host computer, you have Windows. On a virtual machine, you can have a Ubuntu. Why people have installed Ubuntu on the virtual machine? There are certain applications where that can be run using Ubuntu with the help of your existing hardware. There are certain things which can run by Windows operating system, which is running on your CPU. But there are other things are there which cannot be run using your Microsoft. Are you getting this point, please?
Yes.
See, the hardware remains the same. Your CPUs, memory, and your hard disk. But these resources, the CPU, memory, and hard disk, are managed and controlled by your host computing system, that is your host operating system, your Windows. Then why did you go for another operating system which you have installed on your virtual box? It is not just only to manage your resources, but there are certain applications which cannot run on the Microsoft Windows, which can run on Ubuntu. So you install your Ubuntu operating system and you install your applications. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you getting this point? So the purpose of virtualization is to make use of those resources, your CPU, memory, and other hardware resources, using certain other applications which cannot directly run on your host computer. Very simple thing. I hope are you getting this point? The
Yes.
basic advantage of virtualization is to make sure more applications can be run, more set of things can be realized, more applications, more other things can be run on the same hardware, on the same bare hardware system. Are you getting this point, please?
Yes, sir.
So similarly, now I'm just bringing this application to a wider aspect. If you have an existing hardware devices with you, some hardware devices which are already controlled, which are already controlled by a particular software. Now I want more applications. Those more applications should be controlled by the same set of hardware. How it is possible?
Through virtualization, sir.
Exactly. Now you got the point. See, the point here is why we are going for virtualization is there are certain applications which cannot be run within existing softwares, which cannot run through existing softwares. So the SCADA systems are already designed and built for that existing hardware systems, and you cannot change those softwares for your own purpose now. But you want to have other applications to be running on those existing hardware systems. For that, you go for a virtualization. Similarly, in your Internet of Things, please do remember, virtualization, that is the devices or systems, must be able to simulate and create a virtual copy of the real world. So they must be also be able to monitor objects existing in the surrounding environment. Assume there's a plant. It can be a power plant. A plant means it is a power plant or an electricity plant or an industrial plant that has been connected through IoT. And if you want to increase or put more applications to use that existing systems, then you need to go for what? You need to go for virtualizations. Please remember that. Virtualizations will help you to run more applications. When you run more applications, you are using the existing resources more effectively. That is the meaning of advantage of virtualizations. So another important design principles that needs to be considered is on the real-time capability. Please remember, whenever you are trying to propose an IoT solution, that IoT solution should be able to do or execute your things in real time. So if you collect the data now and you give the answers tomorrow, there is no point. If you collect the environmental data now, and if you collect the environmental data, if you see that now the temperature of what is the current temperature in your area, what is the current weather data, whether if you are doing some kind of weather forecasting, if you want to do that weather forecasting and you collect the data from your environmental sensors, now you process it and give the answers after 2 days, whether your weather forecasting is capable enough to forecast properly, the meaning of forecast itself is lost. Please remember. So there is no point in getting the answers after 1 or 2 days once you collect the data. So it must be in a real time, something like if the earthquake is coming or something like seismic data is being collected, and if you want to predict within this next minute or next 5 minutes something is going to happen, abnormal things. So these things are going to be taken care. Means you need to provide the real-time data capabilities. So the real-time data capabilities are most important things, please. If you don't give the answers in real time, then there's no purpose of IoT devices. There's no purpose of IoT system. There's no purpose of smart automations. And another important principle that you need to follow is on the decentralization. Please remember, what is meant by decentralization? See, sometimes in an IoT network, basically in a wireless sensor network, if one of the node fails, and if that node happens to be a very critical node, like a coordinator, a very important node which collects the data from all other nodes, and if that main node itself is dead, then what happens to all other nodes? Or if at all a node in a particular wireless sensor network is not functioning properly, is not giving data properly, so what happens to other nodes? So there should be a capable enough, there should be ability of the particular wireless sensing device or a node to work independently. If at all the main node or the coordinator node is dead, even then this particular node which is there as an end device or a router or whatever it may be, should be capable enough to function and to send the data or to act accordingly. So it need not wait the coordinator to get the response. You do not wait for the main node to get the response, what this node has to do. This node should be capable enough to act accordingly, even for an abnormal situation. So that's what this decentralization. You should not depend on the centralized node or onto the mother node or to the coordinator. It should each device on the node should be capable enough to do on its own. And another important principle is on the flexible environment. Please remember, in cases of something goes wrong, it's not according to your objectives of your IoT applications, and it should be easily upgradable or adaptable. In other terms, it should be easily changeable to the new situations and work accordingly and perform the IoT things properly. So another important principle that you need to look for is service oriented. So whenever you deploy an IoT system, it must be helpful for the customers or for the people to make use of them in a very efficient manner, so that basically it is a service oriented. So ultimately your day-to-day life activities are to be serviced in a proper way. So it must meet to the customer's specifications. So what exactly you want to build. So if you are going to build up, provide an IoT or a smart solution for your air conditioners in your office, and if those room conditions are not been properly maintained and they're not been properly controlled, means your temperature sensors are not working properly, then doesn't make any sense. So the service oriented things also should be taken into considerations. And of course, this modularity in the sense that the subsets of your IoT systems should be capable enough to move these particular systems from one place to another place. So you can change the existing system with another devices, or the systems, the devices when they change, it should be capable enough to adapt to the existing system. So if one node is dead now, and if you want to replace that existing wireless sensor node with another node, then it should be capable enough to handle the situations in a better way. So please remember, whenever you are proposing an IoT solution for a particular problem to be addressed, so these IoT solutions should be characterized by many devices or the things will use, and of course there will be some form of gateway to establish communication among those devices, and there will be a system where the information is collected and it is processed at the back end or at the cloud level, and the collected information will be seen through your web clients or mobile phones and different set of other electronic gadgets. So if you see, there are various application domains, whatnot. Every day, whatever you are using a different electronic media or a print media or an environmental monitoring, your identity and tracking, your cameras, using your farming, agriculture, your connected cars for your smart transformations, your energy grids, that is your smart grids, your logistics and shippings, your couriers and whatnot, the vehicle management, the infrastructure management of the company, the manufacturing companies, the energy management, medical healthcare, building and home automations, transportations, consumer applications, all applications nowadays we are making use of this IoT and those design principles. Please remember the design principles what I have mentioned here is very much important for us. So what are the topics I have taken? I have taken from this Cisco IoT fundamentals. So please go to this link. Please go to this link and you can download that book. So you can download the book, and that book from this book, the chapter number 2. Basically, yes, this is the book. So here you can download the book. Entire book can be easily accessible for you. There's no need to pay any. So this whatever the things that you see here now, the chapter number 2 is what I have discussed for you in terms of the points. Please remember here. So this you can. This is the IoT network architecture and the device. So I have collected the points and I prepared the slides. The slides of my on my own. So you go through this architecture, and you can try to understand this architecture in better way, how it can be useful for you. So of course, and this is one particular source for today's presentation, and another one is this one, which one is my own publication. So you can go through this paper also, IEEE Explore. This paper can be downloadable from our university networks or from the library, artificial intelligence-based sensors for the next generation IoT. So here you can see the, of course, the images are not kept here. So one of them is this particular image itself. So this image, you can get it here. The image what I'm referring to is from this particular source. This image what you are seeing is from this particular paper. So you can refer to this. So these two are the two references for today's discussion. So what we have covered so far is, if you see the syllabus, so the syllabus, so the first topics, basically, this is the syllabus. So in this syllabus, we have just started the architectural overview, design principles, and the needed capabilities and the IoT applications. So this particular topic, of course, the another design principles, I will go through it in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we have from 12 to 1. So I will this particular topic will be completed, and we will start the next week the sensing, actuations, and the basics of networking. So this will start in the next week. So slowly I will go through one by one. So this, as per this syllabus, we are going for this, and of course I'm starting the practice session also here with this Arduino board. Am I audible to you, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are starting with the simple first 2 exercises in tomorrow's session. So in order to do this first 2 session, I expect all of you to download this simulator onto your own laptop. Can you see the link, please, here?
Yes, sir.
I'm giving this link on the chat window. You can see it on the chat window. I have given the link for you. So once you download that software, your software will run like this. So what I'm trying to do is see onto my screen, all of you carefully. For time being, of course, the practice session will be tomorrow. Once you're ready with this, so you can download that software and you can just run the software. So you get, do you know what is this one?
Arduino.
Yeah. So this is basically your Arduino board. So this is Arduino Uno board with Atmega 328 microcontroller. So this basically a simulator, and you write the program here. What are the program you're writing is basically it can run on the real Arduino. The same program can be run on the real Arduino, but before you run that on the real Arduino, you please need to practice on writing the programs. This is basically your C program here. So I will tell you how to run this and how to use this simulator. So tomorrow we'll start this. This is one software for Arduino. Is my screen is clear for is visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So please please install it and make it ready. So this is one. And another thing is, okay, regarding the Raspberry Pi, I will give the link for you tomorrow. So there is another software which you can run on your virtual machine. So this is what your virtual machine. So you see here on the virtual machine, I have installed Ubuntu, whereas on my host computer, I have your Windows. Okay, once tomorrow I'll tell you what to be done with this. You have another software for that for the Raspberry Pi. Basically, the Raspberry Pi you will use the emulator. I will give you the link for the emulator, a best emulator link for you. Maximum Raspberry Pi things can be done. So we start with this. So you need to get familiarized with Arduino and Raspberry Pi. Of course, you are not using the real things, but you'll use the simulator. But nevertheless, you will do these experiments up to here. All the, including your cloud, you can do the experiments. So we'll start with how do your LED or buzzer with Arduinos and as well as Raspberry Pis. Both the devices will practice it. Only thing is on simulator, but you can run it on the real hardware too. So we'll start with Arduino and Raspberry Pi tomorrow after completing the architecture of this for the first half an hour. Then the next half an hour I'll give you, and I will give you the other exercises. Of course, some questions on this, what are the topics covered also will be discussed. I'll put it on the course page. So from tomorrow onwards, a rigorous activity will be started for all of you. Once the first unit is over, I'll give the case studies for you to do for the individual works. Right. So am I clear to you now?
Yes, sir.
Please let me know if you have any questions here now. For today's discussion. Yes, please.
Sir,
Yes, please.
the Arduino simulator you just gave us, is it compatible only with Windows or like?
At present, I think, yeah, this is for the Windows only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What I suggest you is those who are having Unix, you can put your virtual machine with Windows. And those who are having Windows, you can put your virtual machine with Unix. So you please install your virtual machines too on your laptops. Because the one which for the emulator, the one I'm going to give for Raspberry Pi, it will be run on your Ubuntu. The one more I'm going to give it. So this is for Raspberry Pi. It will be running on your Ubuntu. But the one which you are using, the Arduino one, this is somewhat better because the other versions are also there for the ones you can run it on the Linux, but they are not very much having more features here. So you have a different libraries here which can support more features. That's the advantage of this particular. This is basically a free educational tool. Okay, whatever I'm giving is all open source tools only, please. So this Arduino Sim is a open source tool. If you don't have Windows operating system, you can have a virtual machine. A virtual machine is not you. Please install your Windows. If you have a Windows laptop, you can put up a virtual machine of Ubuntu, like what I have done now. You can use your Raspberry Pi. So either one, both will be useful for you. Both are required. Both needs to be practiced, please. Tell me any other doubts, please.
Sir, in case we have the physical components, can we just use that? Or
Yes, you can use it. You can directly run the programs in that if you have a real device with you. There's no doubt. That same thing can be done.
okay, sir.
Those who want to really practice on the real hardware device, I will make that devices connected by next week. You can access them, the Raspberry Pis. But before doing anything on the real device, always prefer for you to run on the simulator or your emulator and do it on the hardware. If you already have some exposure to it, you can go ahead. There is no harm, and it's easy for you to do it. Of course, the first unit basically the syllabus will have the theoretical part like architecture, design use, and others. What is MTM, what is edge computing, what is cloud, and all. The first unit basically gives you the theoretical aspects. From second unit, you will have the practical aspects. Any other doubts, please? Yes, Vishal.
Yes, sir.
Vishal, are you online? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir. I'm
Deepak, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good. So, are you able to follow it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. I know others pretty much. So, yes, I think they are able to follow. So, I go with the same speed, but with a little bit more contents from next week onwards. So, tomorrow we'll have the class from 12 to 1. Of course, in that you will go through this simulator. Before the simulator, I need to complete little bit on the architectural aspects about the design principles, so that it will be a little bit repetition. So most probably the link remains the same, or yeah, I will update you tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Any other doubts, please? Any other queries?